Hello dear viewers, welcome back to Car and Bike. I'm Bilal and this is the Toyota Urban Cruiser Taisor. Now it is the rebadged version of the Maruti Suzuki Fronx and it is the newest entrant in this rebadge game after the Baleno Glanza, the Romeo Ertiga and the Invicto Hi-Cross. That's considering the Hi-Rider and the Grand Vitara are co-developed and not just rebadged. But coming back to the Taisor, in this video we'll take a closer look at all the changes it brings over the Fronx. We'll take a look on the inside, we'll take a look at the features and how it is to drive and also the pricing. And finally, most importantly, we'll also consider whether or not you should buy the Taisor. So let's begin. Let's begin with the design first. So where the Fronx is given a mini-me treatment to its elder sibling, the Grand Vitara, here the Taisor, it has also received the same mini-me treatment to its elder sibling, the Hi-Rider. Now if you look closely, you get a newer grille up front with a mesh design, and it is in line with Toyota's international models as well. So if you look at some of the international model Toyota sells in the European market, it has a familiar looking mesh. Then if you look closely, the twin LED bar up front, it is also quite taken from the Hi-Rider, and it looks much better in my opinion compared to the three-element design of the Fronx. Lower down the headlamp, it remains unchanged compared to the Fronx, and even the skid plate, it's taken directly. But if the entire bumper in its entirety is slightly tweaked here in the Taisor. Now over to the side, the only prominent change comes in the form of these 16-inch machine-cut alloy wheels. Now these 5-spoke twin barrel design, it again in my opinion looks much better than the ones you get in the Fronx. Now finally at the back there's only one reportable change, and it comes in the form of this redesigned LED tail lamps. Now the bar connecting both the tail lamps is exactly the same as the Fronx, but this redesigned LED tail lamp, it gets a C-section design, and it looks again quite familiar to what you get in the Hi-Rider. You do get new color options here, which includes this flagship orange, but you also get the Taisor in red, white, silver and grey. You can also configure it in dual tone finish, but you can only have it in red, white and silver. Now personally, I like the design of the Hi-Rider compared to the Grand Vitara. And similarly, I also like the way the Taisor look in compared to the Fronx. But looks are subjective, so do let us know what is your preference in terms of design, the Taisor or the Fronx, in the comment section below. Now stepping inside, there are literally no changes that I would report to you inside the cabin of the Taisor compared to the Fronx. But luckily, I haven't spent a lot of time inside the Fronx, so like you, even I am very curious to know how the cabin of the Taisor is to feel like. The first thing that catched my attention was the concoction of material used all around. So I could see a piano black insert, right next to it there is a silver insert, and then there's a titanium insert, after which there's a brown insert. So it's a concoction of material, but all of which are hard plastic. Now apart from that, once inside, I noticed that the floating touchscreen and the ORVM leaves a very narrow gap for my visibility. It's the same problem with the Fronx, and it has been carried over here in the Taisor as well. Secondly, the seats of Maruti Suzuki cars of late have been large and accommodating, and the same can be said about the Taisor as well, because the seats over here, they are large, they are wide, with good cushioning all around, with a very tall headrest, with a very tall backrest, and it gives you support in all the right places. Although I wish it had leatherette upholstery over here. And as for the space, the cabin does feel more cramped than it actually is, especially because of the kind of the design or the material used here. Had Toyota used a beige theme inside the cabin, it would have made the cabin feel more airier, and it would have made it feel more premium than it feels right now. Now, as for the second row, getting inside is graceful because of the tall seat height, but the rear ingress is not so great. I have enough legroom because the front seat, as you can see, is set to my driving position. I have good amount of legroom, and I can also tuck in my leg quite comfortably. But otherwise, the space I feel here is on the tight side. The headroom for my frame, I'm 5.5 and I barely have any, so taller passengers would not be comfortable here. And I don't think 3 people my size would be comfortable sitting here abreast either. I also miss having a armrest in the center with a cup holder. But in terms of amenities, I have Type-C ports here, there are AC vents, and some place here to keep my knickknacks. There's no driver's seat back pocket, but you do get one here for the passenger. And since there's no sunroof here either, the second row, it does feel claustrophobic, and I'm comfortable here for short journeys, but I'm not sure about longer ones. As for the features, you do get everything expected from this segment. You have LED headlamps with projectors, 16-inch alloy wheels, LED tail lamps, blacked out cladding all around with silver skid plates and roof rails. On the inside, you get a 7-inch touchscreen, while the range-topping version has a 9-inch unit with wireless smartphone integration, a wireless charger, 360-degree camera, heads-up display, tilt and telescopic steering adjust, height adjustable driver's seat, engine start-stop button, steering mounted control, paddle shifters for the automatic, rear AC vents, UV cut glass, a leather-wrapped steering wheel, Toyota connected car tech, Alchemy sound system, and a cruise control. In terms of safety, it also comes with 6 airbags, ESP, hill hold assist, ABS with EBD, and ISOFIX child safety points. Neither the Taisor nor the Fronx that it is based upon has undergone the NCAP crash tests yet. Lastly, the boot space at 308 liters isn't too bad, and it's deep enough to gobble in a medium to large size suitcase. But the boot lip is quite high and it's narrow too, reducing its practicality. Under the hood, you get two powertrain choices. Both are petrol engines sourced from Maruti. The first one is a 1.2-liter naturally aspirated K-series petrol engine, which is a 4-cylinder, and it makes around 90 horsepower and 130 Newton meter. You can have it either with a 5-speed manual or an AMT. The same engine can also be had in a CNG mode, albeit with a slightly less power and only in the entry-level variant with no automatic choice. And the second powertrain choice is what we're driving here. It's the resurrected 1-liter turbo petrol engine, which Maruti calls rebadged. Now, the 1-liter, it's a 3-cylinder and it makes around 100 horsepower and 150 Newton meter of twisting force. It can be had either with a 5-speed manual or what we're driving here, the 6-speed torque converter. Now, although this rebadged engine, it's a 3-cylinder unit, but once you crank it up, it doesn't feel like a one because it doesn't have those typical vibrations and noise that is associated with a 3-cylinder engine. In fact, it sounds like a 4-cylinder unit from the Maruti's lineup, and that's a really good thing. Off the mark, you keep the throttle inputs light, and the ISG or the mild hybrid assisting the engine can be felt. The response is good and the drivability is quite smooth and linear at first. That's before the turbo kicks in at around 2000 RPM. The throttle response is good too. Driving at city speeds, the car feels smooth. A strong mid-range from the turbo engine is pretty enjoyable too, helping with quick progress. It's not as punchy as other turbo petrol engines, but is good enough for everyday drivability. Of course, there is a noticeable turbo lag below the 2500 RPM mark, but once you get into the meaty power band, that is the mid-range, the going is much more athletic than the naturally aspirated version, and that has made a lot of people appreciate this 1-liter turbo petrol engine, and it has seen a lot of demand, says Toyota. And even this 6-speed automatic, it does real justice to the mid-range torque of this 1-liter rebadged engine. Even the gear shifts are smooth and it's like barely felt even while doing city speeds or out on the highway. Sure, when you are in a hurry, sometimes the gearbox tends to lag a bit, but otherwise on a sedate driving you won't notice the gear shifts at all. But if you want to take control of the gear shifts, there are paddle shifters here and you can control the gear shifts. As for the ride quality, the Taisor remains flat over most undulations. The added suspension travel over the hatchback derivative makes the ride more absorbent and sorted. It easily irons out small to medium irregularities, and even the sharpest ones aren't transferred inside the cabin that easily. So the ride quality is a big plus for getting the Taisor. As for the pricing, the Taisor starts at Rs 7.7 lakhs and tops out at 13 lakh rupees ex-showroom. Variant to variant, the Taisor is around 20,000 rupees more expensive over the Fronx if you're considering the 1.2-liter version. Meanwhile, the 1-liter versions are almost on par with the Maruti Suzuki Fronx. So why should you buy the Toyota Urban Cruiser Taisor? Firstly, let's take the Fronx's example, which is selling at an average of 13,000 units a month. It has been preferred over the Baleno and has become one of the highest selling cars every month, which means car buyers do love the concept of a small crossover with hatchback-like footprints and an SUV-like stance. And with the Taisor, they have another option to get the same package with a well-known badge up front. Secondly, Toyota loyalists who always wanted a Toyota SUV and that lineup was too expensive for them now can get one too. There's also Toyota's higher standard warranty compared to Maruti's, which stands at 3 years and 1 lakh kilometer compared to Maruti's 2 years and 40,000 kilometers for the Fronx. And lastly, if the Fronx has a higher waiting period, the Taisor might be readily available. So it's repeatedly been said about rebadged products that they can carry some prominent changes compared to the products they are based upon rather than just a bad change. The Taisor, it has very few changes compared to the product it is based upon. But at least it's much better than the first-gen Glanza and the Urban Cruiser, which was exactly just a bad change and nothing more. So it's one step at a time, I think. So at the end of the day, the Taisor is yet another product which is born out of the collaboration between two Japanese giants. It is good to drive, it is practical, not very heavy on your pocket, and that engine, it's something to write home about. And the Taisor, it comes into a segment which is currently quite popular as well. So that's all from me in this video. Hope you liked it, and if you did, do hit that like button and share it with those who's considering to buy the Maruti Suzuki Fronx and tell them that they have a choice now. And if you have any more questions regarding the Taisor which is not covered in this video, you can head on to our website www.carandbike.com, or you can write your questions in the comment section below and I promise we will answer them all. This is Bilal signing off. Until next time.